Hey everybody, Ryan F. MTG here, and today we are doing the Nergigante ranked season tier list. But before we start, I do want to remind you all that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, there will be new videos up on this channel. And please pet the little corgi in the bottom right corner. That's the sub button, and it's great and heavily appreciated with each and every sub. But let's talk about the tier list. First off, I want to preface that tier lists, I really like tier lists. They're fun to look at and theory craft and to talk about. However, this is my tier list. This is my own personal bias of what I think is good, bad, and kind of mediocre in this season. And you might agree with a lot, or you might disagree with everything I'm saying, and that is okay, right? This is not the end-all be-all tier list. This is just my thoughts about this ranked season. And this ranked season is pretty cool because right now I feel like you can play a lot of different heroes, a lot of different types of decks, and still do either great to relatively good in this ranked season compared to some other ranked seasons out there. And especially that I don't feel like there's one deck or a couple decks that really just hose everything else. Unlike in some seasons, like, last season was Chumlee, and it was just so oppressive. I don't feel like we have that very oppressive deck. Yes, we have a little bit here or there, but overall, I feel like each time that we get more heroes, as well as more cards, so there's just more cards in the standard set pool to play with, I feel like that's strengthening up everything, because right now this might be my favorite season just because the metagame is pretty diverse. That doesn't mean that there's not better, medium, and worse heroes. It's just more diverse and more fun for me. But let's actually start talking about what heroes I think are the best. In the S tier, I do have Zero. Now, do I think he's loads better than everything else? No. But he is seeing the most play for sure, and I think that's partially because he is so intrinsically powerful, and maybe a couple of his hero powers cost a little bit too little AP, so you're getting some really almost broken value off of it, kind of like Rakoha. As well as he's the newest hero, so people really want to play with Zero because also a lot of his hero powers are kind of fun, right? Rakoha is kind of like a Nergigante spike launch, but for spells, and then you have Takoha, which is just kind of this like combo finisher, and even Fight Against Inner Demons could just be kind of, some free nice values. So overall, I think Zero has a lot of deck building that you can do, which makes him fun, as well as he has some really good decks because it's purple. Purple has a lot of great decks. So overall, he is the one hero that I have in S tier. Now let's talk about A tier. And yes, it is left to right. So my top pick for the best A tier is actually X, which makes me super happy because before X has always been kind of in the middle towards the bottom of my tier list. However, I really like Charge Shot. As soon as I saw a lot of the green cards in the new Haunted by Memory sets, I was like, man, X Charge Shot is gaining a boost for sure, and it's actually coming to light because this is awesome, right? You have X itself, Diablos, the Mammoth, all those things that actually have resonate and either pumps the board or pumps itself, and that gets very out of hand very fast. And my favorite thing right now about X Charge Shot is you don't have to go all in on just one unit. You can play an X and then two Diablos, and then you're kind of have these three big heavy hitter things. So if they Dark Destruction or kill one of your units, however way, you still have two or at least one other unit to try to finish off the game. So yes, X Charge Shot can kind of be a little glass cannon-y, but it's more resilient because you're diversifying your threats. My next A rank hero is actually Dante. This is another hero that I've always been mediocre on or very low on. However, there is a new, somewhat memey deck of the all action deck that I actually think is just great. I think that itself is probably my third favorite, or at least what I consider the best deck. It actually might just be my favorite deck. So yes, this might be some personal bias for sure. But the all action deck is so good because it's a burn spell. It's a burn deck at its core, as well as then you just play all these great cantrips of Foresight and Revelation, and then all the halt spells, and then you have Devil Trigger just to fog your opponent for, 10 seconds, and it feels great. Yes, it's very grindy, and yes, it's a very salt-producing deck from your opponent's side, but it's fun to play with, and I think it's just so good, especially because it nullifies removal, right? You're not playing any units, so if you're against Wesker Dark Destruction, LOL, we don't care about Dark Destruction or all the removal that Wesker is playing, and that's kind of why Dante is my third favorite hero of this season. Next up is Jill. I'm really liking Antibody Activation. I haven't played it a lot, but I played against it, and I'm starting to dabble more into Jill decks right now, and I like Antibody Activation, right? You're playing a lot of value explore units, as well as then with Antibody Activations, you can make a heavy hitter that can kind of stick around and win the game over the long period of time. Has this deck changed drastically from previous iterations of Jill? No, not really, but it's kind of switched a little bit here and there because of the metagame. But overall, I think Jill is kind of my favorite red hero right now. Right after Jill, we have the other red hero that I consider A tier, and that's Ryu. Ryu is always good just because the intrinsic value of, all the units that do ETB effects of dealing damage are so value packed, that are so good. However, right now, there are quite a few decks that don't play that many units, or big beefy units like X. So against X, Ryu has a tough time, even with Hadoken. Now that the Hadoken nerf is 20 AP, it hurts it, especially with the X charge shot. The HP of those units are going crazy so fast that Ryu kind of stumbles against the bigger, beefier green units, and then also against Dante, or sometimes even some Zero decks that aren't playing either any units or not that many units. Overall, your units of that value of Hadoken or BB hoods and stuff goes down. Yes, you are still playing the value engine, and a lot of other decks are playing more traditional game plans, and that is why Ryu is still A tier. My last A tier hero is Wesker, specifically Ouroboros. That hero power has always been so good because it's kind of, doing something very different and something pretty broken when you're getting back big devils and tyrants and stuff like that. Also, you are still playing good stuff like those units and Living Death. But we got some new toys for Wesker Ouroboros with Obsessive Duel and Reckless Brawl. And those cards are so good where you can really be much more streamlined. And that's what Wesker Ouroboros wants to be, right? It wants removal spells, big units that they want to resurrect over and over and over again, and resurrection spells, or ways to get the units into the yard. And now with those two new cards, it just gives Wesker Ouroboros more streamlined, which makes it more powerful, and it's very good right now. Yes, I don't think it's necessarily the best of the best, but it's definitely in the best ones. You could also play Dark Destruction. I think that is a pretty good one, but I think that might be more B tier, where it's good, but it also has some bad matchups. It's a little bit more in the middle, where Wesker Ouroboros is definitely A tier in my book. Now we get to the B tier. Yet again, B tier heroes are still pretty darn good in their own rights, and the first one, or the best one in my opinion, is Chumlee. Chumlee, definitely with the nerfs and the new cards, has definitely gone from S tier to B tier. Yes, Chumlee is still such a good deck, however, it's not really played that much. I think that's because, one, the power level went down, but also people are a little bored of it. They want to play the new, more fun, flashy heroes that they haven't played for a while, or with the new cards. Overall, I still think Chumlee is good, and maybe if people start playing it a little bit more, or maybe if I start playing with it more, I kind of realize, oh wait, this is still A tier. But right now, she's kind of sitting in B tier. Akuma is solidly B tier in my opinion. Yes, you can play him, you can do the Raging Demon and kind of be like Dark Destruction, but if you're doing that, I kind of like Dark Destruction a little bit more. Or you could kind of do the more combo finish of giving your unit Veil, and that's pretty darn good, right? But I kind of would rather be doing maybe Jill Antibody Activation if I want to be pumping up a unit, or even Zero to Koha, right? However, there is the Kami deck. I've played the Kami deck a little bit, and I'm not quite sure how good it is. When you're winning, it feels great. When you're losing and stumbling, it definitely does not feel great. So overall, I feel like Akuma has a lot of toys and different things that you can do with him, and I feel like they're all pretty good, but nothing outstanding. Nergigante, this spiky boy sometimes is the best, sometimes he's not so good. Right now, he's solidly, well, I guess lower B tier in my book, and I still feel like either Mono Black Spike Launch or Black Green Spike Launch are good. However, I think they're still just quite a few better things to be doing, but if that's your style of deck, you can still play Nergigante, and you could definitely, Spike Launch is still a very good hero art, and that package of dealing yourself damage, pumping up your units, being a little bit more aggressive, can really put the pain on, more Zero style decks that kind of want to do this nutrition game. So Nergigante still has a place in this meta. Pick for the best C tier hero. And that's Morgan. And this is a big shakeup because usually Morgan's like S or A tier more or less, sometimes B tier, but she's always very powerful. But right now, I would rather be playing the other two purple heroes over Morgan. Does that mean she's terrible? No. But if you want to be playing purple, I would rather be playing Zero or Dante. And yes, Big Resonate is still pretty good, but I kind of like the Zero Big Resonate decks a little bit more than what Morgan has to offer. However, how much bias is that because Zero is new? It could be quite a bit. So maybe next month when I do another tier list, in a month or so, maybe we realize, oh no, the more traditional, Morgan, Darkness Illusion, or Temptation Big Resonate style is the best, but for right now, she's C tier in my book. Next up, we have Rathalos. Rathalos has had his day in the sun with Wrath Awoken quite some time ago, and right now he's sitting flying in mid C tier, where Blazing Wall is actually seeing much more play right now, and I think that deck is pretty good. However, I'm kind of suspect of, is it just better than like Antibody Activation Jill? I know that they're different, but they're kind of similar of, protecting or beefing up one of your units, or just Takoha, right? With Zero. So right now, yes, if you like Rathalos, if you like that style of deck, play Blazing Wall and you can do pretty good, but I feel like there's just quite a few other things that are better. And Nero is our worst hero. I put worst in quotation marks because Nero is still C tier, right? And I know I keep saying this, he is not unplayable. However, kind of like with Rathalos and Morgan, I would rather be playing the other heroes in the similar color. So for Nero, I would rather be playing X or Chumlee because I feel like they are doing more intrinsically powerful things in this metagame. Where yes, there is a Nero growth deck that kind of looks like a couple previous seasons growth deck, and that's still good, right? G and Honda are still, and Desert Diablos are still all good, intrinsical good units. However, with this metagame, it just seems a little clunky, a little slow, but not terrible. Hence why he's in C tier and not D tier. Where, yet again, I'll say it like with Rathalos, if you like Nero, play Nero. You can have fun, you can win with him, but if you're playing just for that win percentage, I would not be playing Nero or basically anyone in the C rank. That's my tier list for the Nergigante ranked season, and yet again, I'll say I really like this ranked season. Yes, you do run into Zero a lot, but I don't think he's as oppressive as Chumlee or other decks in previous ranked seasons. And overall, we just have S to C. We don't have any D, we don't have any F, and even the Cs feel pretty good. I feel like when I'm climbing the ladder, I can play quite a few different decks, whatever kind of fits my mood for that day, or I could just explore and brew or kind of do some Mimi Kami decks, stuff like that, or Dante, and do very well with them and kind of play against a variety of different stuff. And that feels nice and kind of lacking in a couple different seasons. Yes, you still, yesterday I was streaming and I think I ran into Zero 5 or 6 times in a row and that felt bad, but that happens less because last month and even 2 months ago, you would run into Chumlee 5, 6, 7 times in a row, right? So overall, am I saying this metagame is perfect? I'm not, but I think this is my favorite metagame since the start of Teppen, and that makes me really excited because there's just so many different things to do, to play, and to play against, and that feels nice and refreshing. But we'll kind of see, right? We're not going to get a new card set for another month and a half. So, in a month when we kind of revisit this tier list, we'll see if something kind of does become oppressive. And it will be fun to kind of see how this metagame shapes up. But overall, this is my tier list. These are my thoughts, right? Everyone will have different thoughts. But if you agree, disagree, I hope that you kind of see what my thoughts are. And let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.